Hello, hello, Dr. Thaller. I'm Keegan O'Keefe on my research paper. Looking at the juxtaposition between the gamers and athletes, one might expect to be met with a barrage of differences. Looking specifically into League of Legends and football, the differences can begin and end with how much one can bench press. Sometimes. The realm of esports is emerging and deserves to be integrated into society because of its similarities to sports. First, we have opportunity. Sports are available worldwide, and often all one needs is a ball and some friends in the area. Internet and therefore esports are available to 3.2 billion people worldwide, with a staggering 82% of the developed worlds having internet access, all with an equal opportunity to participate. With opportunity comes practice. Sports players can practice a lot, however, there are an equal amount of times when they cannot. Factors such as sunlight, people, weather, transportation, and more can influence the amount of time available to practice a given sport. There are accommodations for this, but generally it can be quite difficult to handle situations outside of one's control. The same is true for gaming, but with less restrictions. Sunlight is not a factor. There are always people playing, whether it be on the other side of the road or other side of the world. Weather is a non-factor until a freak storm hits a transponder and cuts power to a house, and while transporting oneself from the bed to the office chair can sometimes be difficult, it is generally in the realm of possibility. All this practice takes time, especially when either a gamer or an athlete wants to go pro. This pro sphere is getting more and more similar each day, and the amount these teams practice shows it. Pro athletes often have to give up personal time and spend many nights away from home so that they can practice and play with their teams. Similarly, gamers have to spend many nights away from the home for tournaments and public meetings, often in foreign countries. In addition to this, many of the top-level teams have team houses with which they all live in to build team skills, and as the teams are generally consisted of 5 to 6 players, which sacrifices a great deal of privacy to allow for better practice. The talent and skill that both gamers and athletes garner is unparalleled, with only a small fraction of people being able to slip through the barriers that prevent the masses from competing with the pros. With all this time and effort put into both of these, why are they treated so differently? Well, looking at the rewards, they are also pretty similar, but more gladiator style for gaming. Winners receive the jackpot, while subsequent losers receive less and less money. Additionally, as athletes can do side jobs such as press conferences, autograph signing, and tutoring, gamers can do also all of those things, as well as streaming, which is the main revenue for a lot of players. These streams, as well as the availability of watching online matches, are potent factors that contribute to a strong fan base. This fan base is present in both sports and esports. There's always been a picture of a fanatic fan wearing face paint and maybe some body paint with their team's mascot for sports. However, with esports it's a bit different. It might be some face paint, a team shirt, and a Teemo hat, or what the community collectively calls cosplay, which consists of dressing up and sometimes acting like a character from the game or genre. These fan bases are large and diverse, making it so that teams can be created for both sports and esports. Players in the major leagues of modern-day sports have the choice to go to different teams, just as players in modern-day esports have the choice to try out for teams across the globe. The difference between esports and sports is difficult to spot upon farther inspection, especially when looking into players and games themselves. The real difference comes to light when an examination of the community occurs. Not too long ago, the community of gamers was heavily looked down upon because it was a bit of taboo. These scolded people that supported pro gaming in its infancy paved the way for a possible inclusion of gaming in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, which would be a massive step for the gaming community. However, in some places in the world and its community, specifically cosplayers, are shunned from society. Assad, an Arabic gaming fanatic, loves to cosplay and does so magnificently, with stunning displays of lifelike costumes and professional photo shoots. However, he has to go under a pseudonym whenever he cosplays, because if word gets out that he does this, he may be shunned by his community, and he fears disconnecting with his parents. Meanwhile, a fan in the sports kingdoms can only be praised by peers and local leaders, unless from a rival team, of course. These communities are strangely juxtaposed. Societal conditioning has the average human thinking that gaming is for nerds and sports are for jocks, and that fans of each are similar to their idols of fandom. Today, the long fight between jock and nerd has become a murky line, With the level of diversification available today, there are many who now bridge the gap and have become both jock and nerd. In high school, Bjergsen, famed TSM mid laner, was a stellar tennis player, and Zhu Zhang of Ku Tigers has a likeness that bodybuilders would be jealous of. Michael Phelps, gold-winning Olympic swimmer, has gone on record multiple times stating his love for video games, as well as many others in an online article. These forerunners of acceptance can pave the way for the new age of gaming by advocating for this cause, or even just continuing to set the example. Esports can be a hugely popular culture, however it is still looked down upon as being too childish by many. A possible explanation is that the baby boomers generation does not have much access to video games, so they haven't grown quite accustomed to it yet. In an interesting approach, Mr. Arbina includes a unique view into an outside sport integrating into the fabric of America. Acceptance has often been marked by adaptation to local environment and culture. This lack of acclimatization has trickled down and left residual resentment against video games as a career. Oftentimes, early video games were given as gifts and used as a reward instead of a job. Therefore, the large change in climate could paint the baby boomers as pedagogues that are vehemently against video games. A similar phenomenon happened with the institution of football as a college sport, with the perpetrators being management and the gamers being poor, uneducated, or black. For some people, change is hard and will be the harbinger of antipathy, but as long as progress is made towards integration of esports as a respectable prosphere, it will act as a counterweight to the feelings of those raised in the baby boomer generation under such circumstances. Another criticism of the world of gaming is the solitary aspect of it. This was a valid point when video games were first coming out and were on consoles without internet capabilities. However, with the advancement of technology, this point becomes obsolete. Specific to computer games, the games today are often multiplayer and have teams as big as 64 players working towards a goal that advocates for teamwork. The inclusion of typing in programs such as Skype has made teamwork readily available. Now one can start a game and be in a virtual room with all of their teammates. In the article I Will Own You, the author states interactive dimensions in a rich communicative environment holds the player accountable for the actions of their character. Similar to a physical sport game. The addition of streaming technologies such as Twitch even allow for the access of spectators and commentators. Dan Burke even stated in the University of Pennsylvania Law Review that the esports industry currently presents a nascent structure that one team owner has compared to the state of American baseball when the first vestigial forms of the current team, league, and ownership structures were emerging. Lastly, the marketability of the two worlds is about as close as can be. Specifically in the Asian theater, League of Legends players are highly rewarded for their efforts with teams that are named after companies, such as Samsung White. Similar to football in America, where it is clearly visible the effects of ads as they are plastered all over the stadiums, clothes, and various forms of paraphernalia. As T.L. states in her book, Raising the Stakes, while amateur activities can be found, a good portion of our everyday experience with sports is now funneled through a complex circuit that includes transnational media products, stars, sponsors, and commercialized ownership. The treatment of these stars is not limited to their ability to market products, but also to their celebrity status. Pro players in both places enjoy an elevated status that shows the enjoyment of their respective sports by their fan bases. With the change of the millennium, there is a change in culture. Video games are now a reliable source of income for some and no longer a mere child's toy. Granted, there are differences between American football and League of Legends professionals. However, these differences are simply overwhelmed by the mountain of similarities that engulf both spheres. Hopefully, this worldwide phenomenon will continue to grow and exceed all expectations.